Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. And this podcast is actually going to be broadcast on both seniorsafetyadvice.com and on Aging in Place Directory. And on their YouTube channels as well. So, however you're listening to this or watching this, welcome. Today, I am so happy to be talking to Jack Kelly. I've been talking to him for quite a while now. He's a senior real estate advocate and a senior home coach consultant. He's a realtor with Keller Williams in Lakewood Ranch, Florida, which is actually around the Sarasota, Florida area. Is that right, Jack?
Yes, we're about
Okay.
Sarasota, Lakewood Ranch, uh, Manatee County, about 60 miles south of Tampa.
Okay. So if you're familiar with that area. So today, though, the topic we're going to be talking about is reverse mortgages and how that is just one piece of the puzzle in completing an aging in place solution. Jack, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I came to real estate about 9 years ago. Retiree or refugee from corporate America. I've had a contractor's license and finally wound up in real estate in 2016. The last year and a half, I've had several challenges, and that led me to start looking into the senior demographic. What I found was absolutely stunning. It is probably one of the most underserved segment of our population. And when
Right.
you stop to consider the last of the baby boomers will turn 65 in the year 2030, and the next 45 to 50 years will be what is lovingly referred to as a silver tsunami. And yeah, no lie.
I
All
love
right.
it.
So aging in place has become the buzzword
Yep.
with many different fingers and different directions. As a realtor, one of the most important things we need to understand is aging in place is complex. It requires a lot of additional training, and to implement a solid aging in place protocol requires funding. And
Yep.
that's where the reverse mortgage comes into place and is pivotal in building that safety net, if you will.
I agree. I agree. I mean, along with the emotional aspects of changing your home and growing older and all of that, I think the funding of it is just as imperative. It's the biggest issue that a lot of older adults and families of older adults are combating. So, can you tell us exactly what a reverse mortgage is these days? Because I think a lot of people still have that old notion of what it used to be, and they're scared of it. In fact, the contractor I was talking to this morning said, "Oh no, I'm not a fan of that at all." And, I didn't delve into it, but he may be under the concept of what it was. So give us an idea. Explain it to
But
me
the,
like
the
I'm a
bottom
fifth.
line, I'm sorry, the bottom line is a reverse mortgage is just that. It's a mortgage, nothing more. You don't, you don't surrender any rights. You don't surrender any materials. It's a mortgage. However, it is a mortgage that you're not required to make interest and principal payments on for as long as you own the property. So you go out and you want to fund some renovations and you don't have the funds to do it, well, we can get you a reverse mortgage and you could do it that way. One option.
So then what happens when you sell the home?
When you sell the home, the the note becomes payable like any other conventional or FHA mortgage. You
Okay.
sell the house, the mortgage needs to be paid.
Okay.
Simple as that.
Okay. And the house is always yours until you sell it or your family sells it.
True statement. One of the misconceptions of a reverse mortgage is that you lose title to the property. That is untrue. It is. I don't know where that got started, but you maintain your name. The current owner's name will stay on that title until they move it.
So
So
it
they
was
own the
never,
property.
so it
I'm
was
sorry.
never true?
Which
The fact that you lose the property, that was never true with a reverse
never
mortgage?
true. To the best of my knowledge, it was never true. I
Hmm.
don't know where it came from, but I'm here to dispel that rumor.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I even see commercials of people saying, I thought a reverse mortgage meant that I lost my property, but that's not true.
No, not at all. Not at all. There are also a lot of other misconceptions that we'll touch on quickly. Uh, the house, if you were to pass, God calls you home, and your heirs will then be responsible for following your estate planning documents. They will determine who gets what.
Okay.
The mortgage will be paid, and any funds over and above what the mortgage takes will be distributed to the heirs as the planning documents require.
Okay.
If the house transfers ownership by those documents, then the note is paid the very same way as any mortgage out there gets paid, and then the house is transferred to the new owner or the heir,
Okay.
however you want to do it.
So then what's the difference? And coming from someone who doesn't know, what's the difference between taking out a second mortgage and a reverse mortgage?
The second mortgage, okay, or even a home equity line of credit requires that you make interest and principal payments,
Okay. Like a loan, like any loan.
like any other loan. Yes, the reverse mortgage, and it's also known as a home equity conversion mortgage or a HECM, requires no more interest and principal payments. So if you establish a line of credit, and let's just say in order to service that line of credit, you pull $100,000 out of that line of credit, and now you're making payments back to the bank of interest and principal payments, and at 3%, I don't know, maybe for argument's sake, we'll say $1,500 a month, and I don't know what the numbers are. I'm just pulling stuff out of thin air. You're paying $1,500 a month in interest and principal. If you establish a home equity conversion mortgage, it's very much the same. You pull that same $150,000 out to make improvements to your home. You do not pay interest and principal payments. That's the power of what a HECM can do for you.
What's the advantage to the company that's providing the HECM?
The company that's providing the HECM is the FHA. It is a
Okay.
federally guaranteed note, and with that said, there are some significant paths, if you will, to establish a reverse mortgage.
That was my next question. What are the requirements that someone needs to qualify for that?
Unfortunately, I am not a mortgage lender, so I'm not the one to answer that question.
Okay.
But if
Okay.
you're going to ask that question, be sure you ask it to a qualified HECM lender.
Oh,
Not all mortgage lenders understand the nuances of the HECM or the reverse mortgage.
okay.
So if you're gonna ask those types of questions, and because every answer is going to be unique.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
in order to answer all those questions accurately and properly, you got to get somebody who knows what they're talking about.
All right. So when they're looking for a lender, then they're looking for a HECM is it a certification or does it say HECM qualified or how do they
Uh,
know?
the best way to ask if you have a lender and you're interested in a HECM mortgage, you can ask that lender, does your mortgage company provide reverse mortgages?
Okay.
If they say, and a lot of them will say no.
Okay.
If that's your answer, call me. I got a bunch of them. And they're all good.
Okay. I'll put Jack's contact information on the description and the YouTube channel, and you can call him. But I think that's very smart because you're right. I mean, just like having someone come into your home to do an aging in place assessment, I mean, a lot of people can say they do that, but you want someone who's actually trained and qualified to do that. So they have to show you
Yes.
that. You. So as far as like the myths that you mentioned earlier, I mean, you already talked about the fact that a lot of people think, oh, the bank is going to own my home or I lose the title or whatever. And then that is absolutely not true. But what about a lot of people, a lot of my friends think, well, then I won't have anything to leave to my heirs. What, I mean, my thought is, well, yeah, but your heirs are probably paying for a lot of things that you need now. So what are you leaving them? I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about that myth or that thought?
That's exactly what that is because the current resident, whoever's on the title today, uh, the disposition of the funds will be directed by their elder care, by their estate planning documents.
Hmm.
So whatever's left in that house, just like with any other mortgage, will be distributed to the heirs.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
The
I think,
nice, the nice thing about a HECM is you can't get underwater. So what that means is if if the property isn't enough, in other words, if there's not enough equity in the property to satisfy the reverse mortgage, your heirs do not need to come up with the balance.
oh, so if the property is valued at $50,000 and the HECM is $100,000, then the heirs don't have to cough up that extra 50,000.
True statement.
Wow. So that gets eaten up by the mortgage company,
It's it's absorbed by the FHA.
by the FHA. Okay.
So there is mortgage insurance associated with this product.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's seems like a no-brainer.
You-
Another myth that I read was that reverse mortgages are only for desperate or broke seniors.
Untrue.
Right.
Here's what we're seeing today. There are three ways you can get funds from a reverse mortgage. You can get it in a lump sum, which we don't recommend. You can get it as a monthly stipend, which we don't recommend, but it's an option. Or you can get it as a line of credit, much the same as any other home equity line of credit from any other lending institution. So, what happens is you get the line of credit, it goes into your bank. So for argument's sake, let's say uh, you get $200,000 as a line of credit.
Okay.
That is your money to do with as you please. You will not pay any interest or principal payments on that. It's cash in your bank, wherever you want it. So now you need to put a roof and you need to put a new air conditioner in the house. That's going to come up to $30,000. You put the roof, you put the air conditioner, you're done. So that would leave you with what, $170,000 in your home equity line of credit, or I'm
Right.
sorry, your HECM line of credit.
Right.
Now, You take that $170,000 and you deposit it into your own financial portfolio.
Okay.
So now that $170,000 begins collecting interest based on the rate of return of your investments that you have out in your portfolio.
So you can take that 170 and put it in a CD.
You
You
can put it in
can,
a CD. You can give it to your financial planner and say, make me money.
right.
Okay.
Right. And you can take that money and you can, but you don't necessarily have to use it on a house.
No,
You can take a vacation. You can buy a
you can
car.
take the most fancy vacation you could ever possibly dream of. Okay.
Right. Off
Or,
to Australia.
and now here's the real kicker. All right, let's say for argument's sake, all you took was the $30,000 to pay for the roof and the air conditioning. You got $170,000 there. All right, now when you signed the paperwork for the reverse mortgage, you signed at 6%. I think today it's about 6.5,
Okay.
whatever. What is 6.5? You signed at 6.5% that you will be paid that will accrue on the reverse mortgage until it's satisfied.
Okay.
The money that is in the line of credit earns 1 point more than you're paying. So it's earning 7.5. You're paying 6.5, or it's accruing 6.5. It's earning 7.5.
Automatically.
You don't do a thing. But if you want to pull the money out, put it into your portfolio, you can do that too.
Right. If your portfolio happens to earn more than 7.5 or whatever.
Yeah, usually from what I've gotten talking to folks, it's probably closer to 9
Wow.
as an overall rate of return.
Yeah.
Return on the investment of your entire portfolio. It could
Yeah.
go a lot higher. I don't know.
Right. Well, it depends on the market and the years. It goes up and down like a roller coaster.
Yeah, it does. Right? But the beauty of it is you're insulated from that.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about, well, what happens if we experience another 2008 where
Right.
home prices dropped by half.
Right.
You're insulated from that.
Nice. Okay. What about another myth I read was I can get kicked out if my loan balance gets too high.
Untrue.
So that's what you were talking about with the underwater.
True statement.
All right.
All right.
Can't go underwater.
And that's determined by the appraised value of the property at that time, at the time. So, for argument's sake, you
At the
establish
time, wait, at the time that you're taking out the reverse mortgage or that you're paying it
that
back?
it's being satisfied.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
for argument's sake, uh, the resident leaves the property. Whether they move in with family, they go to a senior community, or God calls them home. They leave the property permanently. The house, unfortunately, is worth $200,000, but the mortgage is $250,000.
Okay.
They can't they can't go underwater. That
Okay.
$50,000 is goes away. The
Right.
the the FHA eats it, and they pay for that through their mortgage insurance.
Okay.
Just same way if you apply for a regular FHA mortgage, you
Yeah.
pay mortgage insurance until you hit 20% equity. There's no 20% equity with a reverse mortgage. You just pay the insurance. And you pay the insurance basically for the life of the note.
Wow. It seems like it would be a beneficial tool no matter what age you are, as long as you have equity in the home.
There is a requirement that at least one lender be 62 years of age or older.
Okay.
All
So that's
right.
one of the qualifications.
That is one of them, yes. And
Okay.
that is in fact a showstopper.
Okay. And what do you say when people will say it's too complicated to be worth it? Not to get the mortgage, the HECM.
I respectfully, I would tell them that's why we're here. That's why I'm here. That's why I work with qualified HECM lenders. And if they still feel that way, well, you know what? You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
That's true.
It's as simple as that. If they and I ran into that just last week.
Yeah, what happened?
The individual wouldn't even entertain it. Okay, I'll never bring it up again. And that's where we left it.
Yeah, yeah. So they were stuck in whatever was going on in their head.
Yeah. And that's fine. They have their, they have things going on that I'm not aware of. I don't need to be aware of. I don't want to be aware of. But by the same token, I will give them the information that I think they need and then abide by their decision.
Hmm. What do you think is a reason not to take a HECM, if any?
I can't think of one. As a matter of fact, that's probably why Kathy and I went out and got our own HECM.
It makes perfect sense. It really does. Are there any costs? Are there any upfront costs in getting a HECM?
Everything is rolled into the note, but again, that's a question for the
The
lender.
lender, the lender. Okay, and is it different from lender to lender, or is it a nationwide?
That's a question for the lender. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Um, I'm trying to think of what other.
One big issue. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, obviously, it seems like a perfect tool for someone who wants to age in place.
Yes, because not only will it give them the assets necessary to make the house as comfortable and safe as they need it, it can also provide the funds to enhance their lifestyle,
Correct, because they can use it for anything.
use it for anything. All right. Now, one of the big drawbacks that a lot of people ran into initially is they were under the belief that, oh, I don't have to make any payments. Well, they forgot the other half of that statement. I don't have to make any payments for interest and principal. I can if I want, but I'm not required to.
Yeah,
So what happens is people neglected to realize that property tax and home insurance are typically escrowed and rolled into your mortgage payment. So when they stop making their mortgage payment, they stop paying the HOA dues and they stop paying their real estate taxes. And that is where the big black eye came from. Because a lot of people got in trouble with that. And it was all the fault of the HECM. And I want to think it might have been, no, I'm not even going to speculate. But it wasn't the fault of the HECM. You have to pay your real estate taxes and you have to pay your homeowners insurance. You have to pay your flood insurance if it's required. You're still responsible for all the other uh, costs associated with running that house.
including the original mortgage.
That's
No,
gone.
original mortgage is gone.
You cannot have a reverse mortgage. The reverse mortgage must be the primary mortgage.
Okay,
You can only have one. So it needs to be on your homesteaded property.
okay.
You can't say, oh, this is great. I'm gonna get one for that one, and I'm gonna get one for that one, and I'm gonna get one for the guy down the road too, because I'm gonna buy that house. No, you only get one per customer, and
Okay,
it needs to be your uh homesteaded property.
okay, okay. Another qualification. Good. So it would make sense to me that when you get trained to do aging in place, as an aging in place professional, I don't care if you're an occupational therapist or a contractor or whatever, that along with that training, would also come some training about HECM, because that's one of the issues that you come up against is, well, thank you for telling me all the things that I need in my home, but how do I pay for it?
That, believe it or not, that is not included in the career path.
I know it's not, because I
Okay.
took the career path. So,
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I've got all of those. I've got a list of
oh,
letters this long behind my name, but none of them say reverse mortgage.
right.
That basically came from from our own personal experiences.
Okay.
I started looking into it, and I got more curious about it, and before too long, I'm talking to this one, and I get connected with George, and we went through it, and you know what? It's true. It works. If you allow it to work, it will work. So yes, it is there to fund it.
Yeah.
They can fund whatever they need to fund within the parameters of how much they can borrow.
Right.
And again, that's going to be different based on the unique circumstances of the borrower.
Right.
Only a qualified HECM lender can determine that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I love the idea that one, you're taking control of your finances, basically. Two, that you have this flexibility to use that money for what is needed, be it a healthcare issue or a leisure thing you've always wanted to do or home maintenance, whatever. I love that you can do that. And the fact that you can take that money and invest it in something to make more money, I mean, that's what made me think, if someone younger could do that, that would be amazing. But number one, you'd have to have the equity, and number two, there's the parameter of having to be 62 and all that. But I think that that's just it seems like a no-brainer. I'm looking for what's wrong with it. I'm looking for it's too good to be true. What's wrong with it? And I can't think of anything except that the heirs, whatever, if you have any, the children aren't going to inherit the house. But at the same time, so many of my friends who are taking care of their aging parents are paying for a lot of things to care for the aging parents. So the money is coming out already. They're putting these positions where they're not only taking care of their kids, but they're taking care of their parents financially. And it's a struggle.
And that's why the the adult children need to pay very careful attention to what we're doing here.
Right.
Here's the scenario. Mom is in a house. She doesn't want to leave. She doesn't want to move in with them. She's happy in the home that she's lived in for the last 40 years, and she's not leaving.
Yeah.
So there are things that need to be done, and she's sitting on all that equity in the property. And what is she doing? She's waiting to die so that her children can get it. All
Right.
right. Let's take the equity out of the walls and put it in her bank account,
Hmm.
because that's what the reverse mortgage will do.
Hmm.
Then her adult children can go ahead and have the funds necessary to provide for her as she moves through this portion of her life.
Right.
All right. And then when she passes, they're gonna get everything anyway.
Right.
As if the mortgage were paid, and they wouldn't be draining their own assets to help mom.
That's the big issue because in the meantime, they're not investing in their own retirement, because they can't.
Well,
The money's going
let,
to mom and dad and the kids.
let's say it's costing the adult children, I don't know, $300 a month
Oh,
to
it's
help
more than
support
that. I'll
mom.
tell you, it's more than that. But let's say
We'll just say
$300.
for my brain is good with small numbers.
Okay.
They're paying $3,600 a year
Yeah.
to help take care of mom.
Yeah.
Right now, if they were to take that same $3,600, now they are buying down something. They're
Yeah,
buying down their own investment and helping mom. What do you think will happen if instead of buying down their assets, they go ahead and take that $300 a month and add it to their existing account? All right. Here's a tool to play with, and that is a mortgage calculator, not a mortgage calculator, a compound interest calculator. They're available on the internet.
right, right,
So here's what you do. Take, let's say they got $50,000 in liquid assets in their account. Now, we're going to take that same thing, that same $50,000, plug it into the calculator and say, okay, I got $50,000 today. I'm going to add $300 a month. The return on the investment is 9%, and I'm going to do that for 5 years. What's my balance?
right,
Then go up and change it. See, I'm going to do that for 10 years.
Yeah.
What's the balance?
right. That's right. I
I
know.
mean, this is a tool that can actually help families like one another again
Yeah,
because they're not fighting about money.
that's right. They're not.
Money, they put them. I heard a long time ago that if a problem can be fixed by throwing money at it, it's not really a problem.
Mm,
So here we're learning how to maybe not throw money at it, but certainly be uh, wiser in how we use it.
yeah. I mean, properly allocating it the way you just said makes perfect sense. I mean, compounding is real. It's totally real. And when you realize if you can just put a little bit away each day, each year, month, whatever,
Okay.
it does add up. Because if you're just taking that money to pay for mom's groceries or her electric bill and internet and whatever, that kind of thing, that's just thrown away. I mean, you might as well take it and put it in the fireplace. It's thrown away. Yeah, she's getting those services, but
Yep.
here's another way that
Now
she can get those
you want to
services.
hear an even better one?
Yeah, tell me.
We have somebody who they're financially stable, they're not going anywhere, they're healthy, they have no mortgage on their property. But what they do is they go ahead and they take these folks are a little bit more affluent. They take $300,000 line of credit, which they invest in their portfolio.
Wait, a line of credit or a HECM?
It's a HECM, I'm sorry.
Okay,
A
okay.
HECM, and they get $300,000 HECM. Now, the HECM is going to appreciate at 6.5 points per year. All right. So you use the calculator and you go $300,000, 6.5% annually, compounded monthly for 5 years and for 10 years. That gives you what the HECM will need to be repaid. Now we take the value of the property that they took the HECM against. And let's say for argument's sake, that's a $600,000 property. Go back to the calculator, right? $600,000, average rate of appreciation in real estate is about 4% per year. So uh, your property is going to go from $600,000, 4% compounded. We even do this one month or annually for 5 years and for 10 years, and then see what that property is going to be worth. Now, take that $300,000 that you got as a from the mortgage, and you put it into your
Portfolio? Yeah.
your portfolio. Same thing. Go to the calculator, but this time take the total balance of your portfolio, add $300,000 to it, and that's where you start.
Yeah.
Now, okay, let's say the average rate of return is 9%. Say, okay, 9%, annual, compounded monthly. All right. But now here's a kick. That $300,000 mortgage payment that you're not making, you add it to the money in the portfolio. So let's say, for argument's sake, that's $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
So you got $600,000 a month in your portfolio. You've got another $300,000 going in, $900,000 in your portfolio right now. It's growing at 9%. You're going to compound that monthly, and it's an annual rate, compounded monthly, and you're adding, what do we say, $1,200 a month?
Yeah.
And you're adding $1,200 a month, all right, for 5 years, maybe
Wow.
10 years. And
Yeah.
come back to tell me, where have you been all my life, reverse mortgage?
I know those numbers are amazing. So what do you think if you were to walk in to someone who is considering aging in place and they're
Okay.
there and their family, their son and daughter are there, what would you tell them that they need to consider? What are the issues they need to consider before signing up for a HECM?
Everything we just discussed.
Okay. If
It,
you,
this is not a short conversation.
right,
This is not a chip shot.
right.
This takes time, it takes patience, and it takes research. This is not a quick fix,
And
but it can be made to work.
I would think that if they do have a financial planner, a banker, whatever, that they would discuss it with them as well, based on their portfolio.
Probably,
Yeah.
and they'd probably be disappointed.
Why?
Why? All right, here's a for instance. I contacted my guys, my financial planners, and I says, hey, I got this really good thing going on with reverse mortgages. And it was a very cold response. I actually wound up having him speak with them about reverse mortgages
Who's them?
and my financial planners.
Oh,
I had my reverse mortgage guy
oh,
get
I,
on the phone and talk with my okay. They didn't quite get it.
wow.
So you can talk to your financial planners. Absolutely, I would encourage it. But by the same token, be be skeptical, not cynical.
Okay.
If if
Okay.
the if if the financial planner says, "Oh, that'll never work," ask them why.
Yeah.
Why? Why won't it work? Tell me why it won't work.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. You're right. I mean, I personally think when you're making decisions like this, these are big decisions, that you speak to as many people and get as many different aspects as possible. But at the end of the day, you have to make the decision, based on all these little pieces of information. And I love the idea of taking out the spreadsheet and plugging in the numbers and seeing it for yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, the numbers tell it all.
getting one of those mortgage calculators. Either that was what sold me.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's
That's
right
what
there
sold
in
me,
front of you, black and white.
pretty much. And everybody I talked to, I share that with, and they went. And a lot of times, I'm hosting an open house because I am still a traditional realtor, and I'll have a cheat sheet set up. And when somebody that might be qualifiable we start talking, and I show them the numbers, and they're like, "Really, really?"
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, you don't learn this in school, that's for sure.
No,
That's for sure. And, like a lot of things, it's not something that is talked about often enough to know about. I don't see that many articles or anything about HECMs.
I think a lot of it, Esther, has to do with its early history.
Hmm, yeah,
That's that's my gut.
it makes sense. Hard to shake that off,
Yeah.
shake off the old story.
What did
Yeah,
it say about first impressions?
I know, they last forever. I know. I know. And especially as my Scottish friend says, we never forget, we never forget. So, okay.
No,
So, yeah, well, I thank you so much. I mean, this has been so informative because, like I said at the beginning, along with the emotional stuff that goes along with, aging in place, decluttering, downsizing, modifying the home, admitting that you're getting older, all of that. There comes the real bolts and nuts, which is how am I going to pay for this? And especially if it's one spouse, all of a sudden having to care for another spouse that needs, more wheelchair access or whatever. In that instance, it's kind of like they have to do it.
they have no
And
choice.
yeah, no choice unless they move to another facility or a facility. So I love that there's this option available for people to take advantage of. How long ago did you get your HECM?
Uh, November.
Okay, all right. So
All right. Now here's speaking with George, my Heckham lender. All right. He actually he was annoyed because he had to wait like another 3 or 4 months, probably right up to around now
yeah,
when he turns 62. So he can get one
for himself to get a
for
HECM.
himself. Yeah, for him and his wife.
That's
And trust me,
funny.
this man doesn't need the money. But when you look at what the money can do,
Right.
basically you're taking like I said, you're taking the equity out of the walls
Yeah.
and putting it in your investment in your
Yeah.
in your
In
bank
your
account.
portfolio. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, even if you put it into a CD, even if you felt unsure about putting it into stocks or mutual funds or whatever, and you wanted to put it in a CD, it would still be earning money for you.
yeah.
Awesome.
As opposed to being a burden and need to be paid.
Exactly.
But be sure you pay your property taxes, your HOA dues, and all of the good happy stuff that you have to pay anyway.
I wonder
Or
why anyone would think that all of a sudden that goes away.
well, it's not that they think it goes away. The mortgage payment goes away. And
Oh,
a lot of times, and particularly mortgage taxes, mortgage insurance, homeowners insurance, yeah, that gets escrowed.
I see.
So they don't realize that those are two separate invoices that will still need to be paid by them.
Of course. Now, if the house is paid off, you can still qualify for a HECM, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, don't have to
You
have
can
a
qual
mortgage.
you can use a HECM for a purchase,
Purchase of what?
a new home. Let's say for
Oh,
argument's sake, you want a right size or yeah, I like to call it right size. The rest of the world calls it downsize.
okay.
You want a right size to a new home. You've
Okay.
got this gorgeous 4,000 square foot, 2-story home, and it's just too much. You want to come down to something smaller.
Okay.
All right. So you can go ahead, you can sell that property. You can take the equity and buy the smaller house outright because you own that one outright, and you buy the new house outright, or you take, let's say for argument's sake, you're buying a $400,000 house with the equity from your new home, from your old home. Normally, you could take the $400,000, pay for it, and you're done. With a HECM, and again, I'm using just off the top numbers, just picking them out of the blue. You qualify for a $200,000 HECM mortgage for purchase. What happens is the HECM pays the first 200 of the 400. You pay the second 200. The 200 that's floating out there stays in your bank account.
Right. Because you're only paying half of what.
So, right. So you get the house. You're not making interest and principal payments. Those will be satisfied sometime in the future. And that money is returned into your portfolio. So instead of instead of adding only, you add an additional, in this case, $200,000 to your portfolio to gain, to grow.
Yeah, right. Wow.
There's a lot to unpack.
It's a lot to unpack. Yeah, this definitely is the kind of thing where you have to sit down and almost make like a, okay, if I make this decision, this happens, this happens, this happens. If I make this decision, this happens, this happens, this happens. That's the easiest
Well,
way I can see. I can see it in my head.
I'll shorten that up for you. If you don't do this, what's going to happen?
Right, right,
Nothing.
right,
If you do this and it doesn't work, where are you going to be?
right,
Right where you are.
right,
But if you do this and it works, where are you going to be?
right. Much better place.
It can happen.
Awesome. Awesome. You should be a financial planner.
God, no. No, no. That's not, I am a shoot them all down, sort the pieces out on the ground kind of guy. You don't want me playing in your checkbook.
Well, I love it. I can't thank you enough for your time and your sage advice, Jack. I truly do.
Thank you, Esther. It's been my privilege to be here today.
All
Thanks
right.
again.
Thank you so much. Well, you stay on it a little bit and okay, everybody, thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. I hope you learned a lot. I certainly did. And I will see you in the next podcast. Thank you.